You're listening to the Word Slinger Podcast, episode 033, Hitching Up with Paul C. Brunson.
Writing is difficult, but it is worth the effort. Kevin Tomlinson can help you develop a daily writing habit that will let you write your book, improve your website, and build or grow your business. Visit kevintomlinson.com and start writing now.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
That's where I come in.
Excuse me. By asking if it was diet, she took it as you trying to imply that you thought she was fat. Go get a red rose, get a regular Coke, tell her she's everything you never knew you always wanted. Any problems, give me a call.
So that's a clip from the movie Hitch, and that stars Will Smith and Kevin James, no relation. And it's all about Will Smith playing a character named Hitch, who actually goes around and he's the love coach, and he's kind of tracking around Manhattan, helping people, figure out their relationships, figure out how to connect with each other, figure out how to fall in love. So that's what the movie's about. And then, there's some misadventures as Hitch himself falls in love. If you haven't seen the film, go check it out. I highly recommend it. But this week, I actually get to talk to somebody who's kind of considered the real world Hitch. And that's Paul C. Brunson. It's very important that we throw that C in there for reasons we'll get into in the podcast. But Paul does a lot of the same sort of work, but he's kind of scaled up, where Hitch was kind of like a freelancer, like a gunslinger out there, a love coach for hire. Paul's got this thing down to a science, a real science. I mean, you can actually, if you listen in on this episode, you're going to find out that he's got this system in place that allows him to, kind of dig into the past of his clients, find out what was not working for them in the past, where things might have gone south. And it gives him a chance to, work with them on a personal level that you're not going to see from a lot of different coaches and consultants. I mean, it's really pretty impressive. In fact, a lot of what he's doing for his matchmaking clients could be transferred over to almost any sort of consultant business, and I think you'd see it just skyrocket. So you're definitely going to be interested in this. So tune in, listen to that, and then after the interview, I've got another cool question from somebody, and it's writing related. Now, before I get into the interview and the question and everything else, I wanted to tell you that I spent the past weekend at the 2015 Sterling and Stone Colony Summit. And, this is an event, this is the second year they've done something like this, and it's kind of a hybrid event right now. I think they're still kind of figuring some things out. But what it was for me, was a chance to go sit in a room with, the three guys who host the self-publishing podcast. Two of them were at this event, and that's Sean Platt and Johnny B. Truant. And if you don't listen to the self-publishing podcast, I really recommend it. Of course, I recommend listening to the Self-Publishing Answers podcast with me and Nick Thacker, but I listen to SPP. I'm a faithful listener, and as Johnny puts it, I'm an OG SPP listener. I'm an original gangster there. And, you learn a lot from that show, but there was something about being there with these guys and getting a hands-on sort of master class kind of training that was just inspiring. But not only that, I was in a room with about 25 other writing professionals, people who are, there were people in there who were not yet making their living from their writing, but there are people in there who are making a fantastic living from what they're writing. So we got to do these hot seats, which that was inspiring on its own. Something happened when I did my hot seat, because I went in with one idea. I went in thinking, I want to learn more about how to refine what I'm doing for the sort of authority building business that I have. And let me explain something before I say anything else. I want you to know that I love this work. I love talking to people about writing. I love talking to people about building authority. I love talking to people about, how to use writing to improve their business, improve their lives. My coaching clients, I love talking to these people. I love all of it. I love the strategy, all the consulting work I do. That stuff is a lot of fun for me. It's energizing to me. But as I said in a blog post I released on Tuesday, I just happen to love writing fiction more. And the thing is, fiction was the thing that got me into all this. Fiction was the first thing I ever wrote. I mean, when I could write, I wrote a fiction story. I tell people all the time that I wrote my first book when I was 5 years old. And that's absolutely true. It was 5 pages. It was on notebook paper. It was front and back. I did a cover. I did a masking tape binding. And it was fiction. And then, years later, I started getting paid for my writing. I started working professionally as a writer at 12 years old. I was only making about $10 a week, but hey, something. And that's a lot of writers would love to have an origin story like that. But that stuff wasn't fiction per se. But I mean, I was writing fiction at the time, and I mean, I was obsessed with short stories, and I was constantly trying to work on a book. I had a dream of being a fiction author, and the thing is, what I've done consistently throughout my career is I've set aside writing fiction as being just this dream that one day I'll be able to get to that. I was being very disrespectful to this thing that I actually love doing, that I'm actually good at. And despite the fact that I've written and published like 12 books, I was not treating fiction as something. I wasn't treating it as real work. My attitude toward it was, it's too much fun. I love it too much. I'm too passionate about it, and therefore it can't be real work. And so I'd better go off and do something I hate and spend my time doing something I don't like doing. No, that's sort of a misnomer too, because like I said earlier, I actually love doing the coaching and consulting and working with people, but dropping back into the copywriting world, doing purely marketing stuff, that stuff can be fun. It can be interesting and entertaining, but it is not my passion. I mean, it's just not the thing that wakes me up every day, making me feel excited. As much as I love talking to people and learning from them, and then, sharing what I've learned and my insight and inspirations, that's not the why of my life. That's not why I write. It's the thing that I've always said, I'm going to do this stuff until it becomes really hot, makes me a lot of money, and allows me to retire so that I can write full-time, that I can write fiction full-time. Now, I've never considered retiring, to be honest with you. Retirement is not something I'll ever do unless I'm just forced to. But I do want to, I want writing fiction to become my full-time work, and I always have. So that was the big revelation for me. I went in, I did my hot seat, I asked, questions about monetizing or preparing what the work I was doing, the stuff I was doing foundationally for my business. I was asking the question, what can I do to make sure that when I'm ready to monetize some things that aren't really making me an income yet, that I've got the right foundation? And those are reasonable questions to ask. And the money I make on the business now, my intention was I'll keep pouring work and time and energy into it, and that will grow and become, more sustainable in scale. But the problem is, I don't have a passion for growing that side of the business that way. I do it because I love it, because I want to help. I really do want to help. And so I found that, this could be a good indicator. I mean, when you end up doing more free coaching than you do paid coaching, there's probably an indication there that you like doing the coaching, but don't like building that business. So, and a lot of that is, if this is what you want to do for a living, you better get over it and you better figure it out and you better do the work. But I don't think that's never really been what I want to do for a living. I want to talk to people because I like them and because I want to help them. I don't want to talk to people because I want to earn a paycheck off of them. It just never felt right to me. But which doesn't mean I won't charge, but doesn't mean I don't charge. I do charge for that work. But what I find is, once you've connected with someone, you stop thinking of them as I don't know, a commodity. I mean, you start thinking of them as someone you care about and you want to see them succeed. And it becomes really difficult for money to be the barrier to that relationship. Like, if they can no longer afford to pay for coaching, that doesn't make me want to stop helping them. So, there's some things to work out there and iron out there. But, now I'm focusing a lot more on fiction. I've spent the past week diving right back in. I'm optimizing my book covers and the pitches for all my books. I'm going to branch into new markets, new distribution lines. I'm getting serious about that part of it, and for the first time, I'm going to treat fiction as what it is. It's the work. It's the business. So you're going to hear that. I mean, I'm going to continue to bring you guys as much value as I can from the world of entrepreneurs here, because I learn from these people that I talk to as much as I hope you do. That's not going to change. I love doing this podcast. It's not going away. There's no dangers here. What this means for you is that you get the same, great stuff you always got, but my focus is going to be on learning and growing so that I can grow my fiction business, as well as, the sort of ancillary business that of helping people get into the industry, get into self-publishing, or learn how to grow as entrepreneurs, and using writing as a primary tool for that. Because I love that. I am passionate about that. It's just not the thing that wakes me up every morning. So, all that said, now that has nothing to do with Paul C. Brunson directly, except that he's a man who pursued his real passions. He's gotten into this work. He loves helping people. He is someone who wakes up every day excited about the prospect of helping someone for a living, and he's got a great system for it. So, check out this interview with Paul. Stick around afterwards. I've got a question about how to get yourself to write when you don't have time, which I appreciate getting those questions, and we'll follow up after the call. See you after. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode where we're talking to somebody who is, man, so far just talking to you, man, I can already tell you're a smooth operator. I like as I said before, you have that sort of beautiful black man voice. You got me kind of revved up over here already. We're talking to Paul C. Brunson, who is a television host, author, and professional matchmaker. And we'll get to all the ways you can get in touch with him later. But for now, I want to welcome you to the show, man. Thanks so much for being on.
It is my pleasure to be here, Kevin. And Kevin, I was joking with you too. You've got that real smooth podcaster voice as well, like radio. I
practice every day.
Do you really?
No, I really don't. But but I did grow it myself. So I'm always fascinated when I meet people who do things like matchmaking as a career, because it's not in that list of traditional careers, right? So the television host and author part of your business, I can wrap my head around, but I'd love to talk to you right now about the matchmaker part of your business. You mind kind of just first of all, I'm curious about something, because you corrected me. You didn't correct me, but you did emphasize this. But I need to know, why Paul C. Brunson?
All right,
Brunson. I'm sorry, I keep saying Bunsen. I mean Brunson.
you know why you're saying Bunsen? It is because of Bunsen burners.
Okay.
I remember that in high school, the Bunsen burners in chemistry.
Yeah.
So that's everyone confuses the last name, which is cool, and everyone actually that says my full name will end up calling me Patrick at some point.
I was this close.
Really?
I'm not even kidding. I was this close to saying Patrick Brunson earlier. So
it's all good. And that's part of the reason why it's this whole name confusion, but also brand, right? Yeah. Is the reason why I go by the Paul C. or the Paul Carrick. And when I started, or when I should say when I launched the matchmaking business in 2009, I went to Google and I just put my name in Google just to say, okay, well, what comes up? And what came up was a guy named Paul Brunson, who lived in a neighboring town, right? Mm-hmm. Who was roughly my age and who was a notorious crack dealer. And when I saw those things and saw that he was getting, much higher page placement than I was, I thought, okay, I need to change something about my name. And so I just started going by that middle name. and it's crazy. It's like he's still locked up to this day. But we have overtaken him on the page placement.
I can see that. Yeah, I immediately went to Google to see if I could find the crackhead all of a sudden, but he's gone. So you're all in. You're all Paul Brunson now, man.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I took back the name.
Yeah. Yeah, I took it back. Yeah, there are no other. There's one other Kevin Tomlinson floating around out there, and that poor guy stands no chance whatsoever of getting his name in Google at this point. So I have that one sewn up. So all right, so that's good. It's good to not be a crack dealer, by the way.
Yeah.
But good for him and his internet marketing efforts. That's a market you wouldn't think you'd have to market on Google, but
yeah, I tell you what, you got to do new ways now. New ways.
That's it. You gotta go where the people are.
Yeah.
So tell me a little now about the professional matchmaker side of your business. But
Sure.
Everything else stems from that, right? Your television host and author career, that comes from this primarily, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had no idea that I would become a TV host or an author, or to be quite honest with you, man, I didn't even dream about it. It wasn't in the vision. In 2008, I was working in finance, and I also had a nonprofit organization on the side. I had a lot of side businesses. I'm Jamaican, and so we have to have at least 8 businesses.
Yeah.
And so my side hustle was a nonprofit organization, and we provided test prep, SAT, ACT prep to underserved youth in DC and in several other cities up and down the East Coast. And I was working a summer camp that we had. We had 100 kids in the summer camp. And one of the questions I had to ask at registration was how many parents in the household. And one by one, they all told me, I live with grandma or auntie or my sister, but not one of the 100 had 2 parents in the household. And it just blew me away, and I realized that here we were working on, test prep when there were, much larger systemic issues going on in the household. And so that's really what drove me to the matchmaking space. And then, how I finally got into actual matchmaking is that from that summer camp, people started joking me, and they said, "Oh, Paul, maybe you'll just become Hitch and you'll just hook everybody up."
All right, I'm going to confess I was going to make that joke at some point in the show. But go ahead.
See, they beat you to it.
Yeah, you got to get in there.
Yeah. But that's what, man, you would have been perfectly aligned with these folks, because they were saying the same thing. Like, maybe you'll just be Hitch and hook them up. And I said, nah, Hitch is corny. I don't want to be Hitch. But by the end of the summer, my wife and I actually started hosting these mixers in our house. And the mixers were geared towards getting more singles talking and communicating. And we thought, okay, maybe there is something here. And by the very end of the summer, a couple of those people who had come over to our house were actually in relationships. And we thought, oh, this is interesting. Maybe there is something to this Hitch idea. And so I then tracked down someone who I thought could execute the idea. Because I didn't know what it takes to be a matchmaker. I wasn't really interested in the industry. So I thought, let me just find someone who's already in the industry and then like license this idea to them or give them the idea. And so, I tracked down this person, and she would not call me back. Like, she wouldn't call me back. She wouldn't email me back. And I started stalking her, and I found out that she was going to be at this conference in New York. And so I bought a ticket. I'm a diligent guy.
Yeah.
Diligent. So I bought a ticket to this conference, and I said, I'm going to go to this conference just to meet her and pitch her on this idea. And so I got to the conference late, like I get to many things. So I was late, and I had to sit in the back of the room. And I'm sitting in the back of the room. I'm trying to scan the room for her. And I noticed many things about the room. Like, there's no one under the age of 40 in this room, right? There are no guys in this room. It's all women. There's no one black in this room, right? It looked like a Stepford wife convention, right? And it turned out I was at a top matchmaking conference of some of the world's top matchmakers. And, it just all cemented in my mind at that moment. I thought, oh my God, there's a space here for me. There's an opportunity here. And what I ended up doing is not pitching her, but instead sitting in the conference for the rest of the day. And I got on the train and called my wife and told her, "Hey, I'm quitting, and I'm going to become a matchmaker."
Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah. And then how long did it take? What was the transition like to go from what you were doing to being a full-time matchmaker?
It was about a year and a half. So, I really did. I quit immediately, my job. My wife did something that at the time everyone said was crazy. She cashed in most of her 401k.
Yeah.
And we used that money for studying and for diligence, right? And so I started, reading every book I could on matchmaking and the science, and anthropology around matchmaking. I then attended every conference I could. I started calling up people to mentor me. I started doing trainings. So I did everything I could in that year to learn not just about matchmaking, but actually also about social media. Mm-hmm. It's funny, we were just joking about that because, at that time I didn't have a Facebook account. I didn't have a, Twitter account, but I realized that could be a way for me to differentiate myself and to begin to build an audience and build a platform. And so I spent about half my time studying social media, the other half of my time studying matchmaking.
Yeah, because I imagine the Stepford Wives probably are not big in the social media sphere, right?
At least not then.
Probably bigger now. What was the time frame on that? When was that happening?
That was throughout 2009. So
Okay.
I didn't launch my matchmaking business, until the end of 2009, early 2010.
So was there a plan B at all?
No, I'm not a plan B person.
Yeah. No, I respect that. Me neither. So, in fact, I'm kind of in that sort of no plan B phase of my life right now. So okay. So you spent a year or so building and getting out in social media and kind of building a brand and building a platform there. So, what were some ways that you started attracting clients to the business?
So that year, by the way, I hadn't really even launched the social platform. I was just learning. Mm-hmm. It was really cool. Like I remember I was able to see one of the first times I think he ever went and spoke at a college campus. I saw Gary Vaynerchuk speak. Okay, I was like really in the space early enough to watch the emergence of a lot of these quote unquote social media. First they were gurus, then ninjas. I don't know what they are now, but thought leaders. But so I was just listening then. But by 2010, I started executing. And I did a couple of things. One is I picked a platform that I thought I would be able to excel in, and that was video. And I created this web series called The Modern Day Matchmaker. And what was hilarious about that is nobody watched it. Yeah. And, we would publish it. And, at 11 views, I would say, okay, I know my mama's viewed at least 10 times. So, who is anyone else watching this thing? Yeah, one other person. But it taught me, a lot of great lessons, though. The importance of quality over quantity. It taught me, just a lot about creating copy and content. But that was really kind of the first foray into promotion. Yeah. Was this web series. And the web series, believe it or not, led me to Oprah Winfrey, of all people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, and that, opened up, that an infinite amount of doors. But the web series, beginning on Twitter, and with Twitter, it was really about giving. It was about listening a lot and then giving insight. So if you look at any kind of dating or marriage hashtags, love hashtags, it's like litany of questions and people who are distraught. And I would just get onto Twitter and just start offering up advice. Yeah. So those were all the ways initially.
Yeah, you could almost go through all those sites and get those questions that people are asking and just go start answering them on Twitter, and you got content, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So what was your approach? I mean, you had this video series. Was this on YouTube?
Yeah, it was on YouTube.
Is it still there?
It's still there, man.
I'm going to go find it.
Yeah, go back to the very first one, because they're numbered, and you'll see. Like I was, look like a deer in headlights. But yeah, what I did with the video series really quickly, because I saw we weren't getting any views, is that we started syndicating it, which was at that time, not very many people were doing. So I would round up, 10, 15 websites that all were serving up an audience that I was looking for, and promise up the video to them basically, and gave them, early access to the video, did it on a different platform. I think Vidler was going on at that time, and I think we were doing it via Vidler. And so they basically got like this exclusive content for their audience, and that helped a tremendous amount. A tremendous amount.
So was it still publicly available at that same time, or did you take it down or lock it or something? Or?
Yeah, so we locked it. So what happened is I think I want to say it was Vidler, and maybe Vidler's gone away, but we didn't use YouTube. So we just gave them access on a different video platform, and gave it to them early. So they had it like 2 or 3 days early, and then we would publish it on YouTube, behind them. And their audience liked it. And, going back to this whole quality over quantity, is that these weren't large websites. They were serving up a couple thousand people a month. That was it. But I was really focused on a specific demo, and I'm a big believer in Kevin Kelly's piece around building 1,000 fans, and the importance of building an audience basically one at a time. And so I was in no rush. I was a big believer in the growth of matchmaking, in the niche that we had in matchmaking, in our ability to serve the audience, and so it wasn't a rush.
Right. And that was just, and like you said, that was all part of that, building that first 1,000 fans, which probably all my listeners are going to be really familiar with.
Awesome.
So, or if you're not, I'll put a link in the show notes, because you really should be. So all right, you're building your platform, you're growing, and what was the tipping point for it? Like, when did it become a business for you?
Oh man, yeah, that's such a good question, because it's interesting to go back and think about. Okay, well, how do you define it being a business? Like, was it the point where it was profitable? The point where we received success from a first client? The first time that we generated revenue? That's a really good question to ponder. But I'd say, like, the tipping point, though, didn't happen until after our first TV show came out, to be honest with you. So just to give you the story, there is, after I had published the very first video, within a week, I had 3 messages from people. One was, production company in Hollywood, who, wanted to quickly have me sign this contract and sign my life away.
Of course. Right?
Yeah. Which I considered. I was like, this is cool. I wasn't thinking about this. This is awesome. And in hindsight, would have been a terrible move. The second was from a more established production company that had some really good shows on the air, had a really good track record. And then the third message didn't come through email. It came through Facebook from a woman by the name of Duck. Her last name was Duck.
Okay.
And I thought, Duck? Okay. This is one of my friends, playing a joke on me. I'm not going to respond. Delete. It's spam. And then the message came through again. And the full message was, hey, my name is, I think it was Amy Duck, and I'm with the Oprah Winfrey Network. And I was like, what? Delete. That's spam. But the third time it came in, I thought, this is really something. And so we found out that someone in their office had been watching this video, right? The video that, like, only my mother had been watching.
Right.
Someone was watching it. And so, I flew out to LA. I met with everyone there. They offered a TV show. And what was fascinating is that at that time, I was like trying to build a business at the same time that I was trying to be a TV star, and it was another great lesson. Like, it's the worst thing that you can do. And what's unfortunate now is so many people want the TV opportunity, so then they can go build the business,
Right.
which is completely opposite.
Right.
You know, I've learned that television is really just an advertisement. That's all it is.
Right.
Right. And it's imperative to have that business prior to that, that huge, platform opportunity. So we got the show, but, we shot the show and we had to then promote the show, and the show didn't hit air until 2011, the end of 2011. So during that time, I was really, I was fighting to build a business. And so the time that I'd say it really felt like it was a business was right before the show got started, or I'm sorry, right before the show went to air.
Yeah.
And, it was, we had a steady stream of clients coming in, which, by the way, we never, ever paid 1 cent for promotion. It was all social media.
Nice.
That drove it. And then, started getting recognition within the industry. And that was the time that it felt like, okay, we really have something special here.
I'm kind of amazed. I'm almost dumbfounded that you didn't have to spend anything on promotion. Because social media has not been the venue to launch my business into the stratosphere. So I'm a little impressed. So is there anything about your start that you'd do over if you had the opportunity?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I will say that I am a big believer in, failing fast to succeed faster.
Oh, yeah.
And being able to learn from those, mistakes and get better. But, I think the number one thing that I would have done, and this sounds maybe crazy or, pie in the sky, but I would have begun believing that I was going to be bigger than I am now, in terms of the business. My wife and I, we didn't have that BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah.
We had our dream was to have a boutique matchmaking firm in Washington, D.C. I remember, scoping out saying, if we could just generate, $100,000, we'll be okay. It's one of those things. And, within that time, we've done 10 times that revenue, and so I would have started already believing that that we were going to create a big, successful entity.
So so what were the challenges then that because there had to be those trial by fire moments, right? So what was the scariest time in this?
Oh man, the scary time is every time we got to come up with payroll.
Oh yeah.
That's the scary. That scary time happens every month.
Yes.
Evan.
Yeah. Still to this day, huh?
Yeah, man. I tell you what, it's, what I learned, it was like maybe a year, 2 years in, is I learned, anybody can generate revenue.
Yeah.
I believe anybody can generate revenue, but it takes talent to manage cash flow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so that's the most challenging thing, accounts receivable and accounts payable and just managing the cash. That's the most challenging. The kind of the biggest lesson going into this was that whole lesson around, okay, we should have started believing we were going to be big, because if we did, we would have started implementing procedures early on, and structure early on, and and documenting, the process early on, so that when we started bringing on our first staff members, that it was going to be, a lot easier to kind of get them all of this knowledge that was just locked away in our heads. And so those were the biggest trials, the getting our team up the learning curve, creating all of that infrastructure, and then also managing the cash.
I mean, you're talking about building your business for what it will become rather than what it currently is, right?
Really good point.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, that's scary too. You're like, what's the line there? Because if I'm building it as, this is going to be $100 million business, and I'm going to own the world by the time it's all done, there are certain things I would do with $100 million at my disposal that I can't really afford to do with, maybe a few grand. So, where do you find the balance there?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think there's two things there. One is that you have to have, you being the CEO, you have to have a very clear vision of where you're taking your company. And that's important for so many reasons, but namely, it's important for yourself. Like that keeps you sane because you know where you're going, right? You may not have the roadmap, to get there, but you at least know, okay, here is, this is the hill that I want to take, right? And so having that clarity of vision is so important. Secondly is, with that clarity and vision, you can begin to build in baby steps, but build in baby steps towards that vision. So in my example, I started thinking that we were going to have a boutique matchmaking agency. And so we did nothing with regards to documenting. So nothing. So there was no data tracking. There was nothing. Now, if we would have just assumed that we would have had just an nth larger, company, then we would have begun not spending massive amounts of money, but, we would have had, some basic data collection, right? Some basic database features right out the gate. And so it's really about having clarity of vision and then building towards that vision.
So how has that put you behind?
Oh, well, what the best example, and I want to say that this was, I think this was Sean Rad, the former CEO, founder of Tinder, who was giving this really cool example. And I thought it was spot on with my agency is that, he described Tinder as, they basically were like 30,000 feet flying, in a plane, right? A full plane. And while they're flying in the plane, they're trying to, repair the engine, right? While they're in the sky.
With duct
right?
tape.
With duct tape. Yeah. And like, please don't crash. Please don't crash. That's exactly what my business experience has been like. Right. Yeah. And what I would have liked is to have built the engine when I was on the ground.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was just such a great example. But I would have started with so much more focus on infrastructure, so much more focus on staffing procedures. When we started staffing initially, because once again, we didn't think we were going to be a large agency, we were just kind of bringing people on hodgepodge, with no real diligence on who they were. And, I could have gone back. So, or if I could go back, right. I'll even say this is, so I've been working on a new business, right? Because I'm Jamaican. So I need to have it.
You got to get those other 11 businesses going.
Exactly. 11 more. And so, I've been working on one new one, for the last year. All right. Brought on a team and I approached this one completely different. Right. So for example, I spent time with capital allocation first, raising capital first, right?
Right.
Out the gate, right? Spent time on doing the quote unquote hiring slow. So I spent 6 months hiring the team. It's not a large team. It's only 4 others, right? But spent 6 months, right, in diligence and hiring the team, right? Those are things that I didn't even think about doing when I started the PCB agency, the matchmaking agency.
Yeah.
Now, why am I doing that now? Because I am beginning with the end goal that I'm building a big business.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like that foundational work. I mean, that's something a lot of businesses miss out on. Every business I've started has missed out on that. So I can attest to the fact that it needs to be done. So if you're listening, go do that. All right. So what exactly does a matchmaker do at this level? I mean, I had matchmakers in my family when I was a kid who, set people up, and I'm guessing it's not the same thing, right?
Well, you did? You had matchmakers in
your...
man.
Well, yes, I had an aunt who liked to set people up, and that's that ended in disaster more than once for me. So,
wow,
I'm going to do a whole podcast just on that topic one day, just to talk about my.
Man, I can't wait to hear that one. Yeah, man. Because matchmaking really it's been around for. Actually, I will say this. Do you know? Actually, here's a quiz, Kevin.
All right.
Quiz for you. Matchmaking is the second oldest profession in the world, second to
Prostitution, I'm guessing. And it's funny how those two things might go hand in hand.
Kevin's like prostitution.
Yeah, I'm running through this thinking, okay, how clean is this going to be? All right, I can say it.
Yeah, no, but you're right. Matchmakers historically have held very prominent, positions with regard to certain communities, around the world, and so it's an old profession. But because it's such an old profession, it has had a ridiculous number of derivatives, and so you think about the movie Hitch, like they build Hitch as the matchmaker, but is he a matchmaker or was he a dating coach? Is Patty Stinger a matchmaker? Or is she a pimp? Like,
Right.
what? And so matchmakers have there's a variety of definitions, and the way that I look at it is a matchmaker is like the Navy SEAL of the dating industry, right?
All right.
It's the person who already has the date coaching skill set, the person that has who's probably studied pickup artistry, it's the person that has had, has a massive amount of skills, but then in addition, what they do is they identify appropriate matches for their clients and then help to coach the client through the relationship. And that's exactly what we do at my agency now, the PCB agency, is that we do a significant amount of coaching on the front end, diligence on the front end. We interview, previous boyfriends and girlfriends and,
Wow.
family members. And, we really get a full assessment of who the person is and where their challenges lie, because most challenges lie within. Right?
Yeah.
It could be an issue with vulnerability. It could be an issue with self-esteem. It could be an issue with just social ineptness. Whatever it may be, we focus on that first. And then once we get the person to the point where we feel like, okay, they're ready to begin meeting others, we'll then go out and we'll identify someone that we believe is a good match, someone who is complementary to their values, someone who meets their personality type, someone who meets their non-starters, someone who we believe they would be physically attracted to, right? We look at all of these characteristics and then we identify these people and then we introduce them, right? We curate the date because the context of the date is so important. Whether you meet at a concert versus a coffee shop versus a club will definitely dictate the outcome, right, of the date. And so we curate the right date and then we follow up and we provide feedback based on what we're hearing from the date. And so it's a very hands-on process, and it's not a process that every matchmaker, in the industry uses, but it's the one that we use at the PCB agency.
And did you develop this on your own, or is this taken from, various sources, or how did this come together?
Yeah, I borrowed from everywhere.
Hey, no, that's good entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That's what it
You
is.
make me feel better on that one. Thank you.
Oh, heck, man. I've been in this business for a long time. I borrowed practically everything I've ever done. So, you said something about interviewing former boyfriends and girlfriends, and that piqued my interest because I'd like to know how that goes.
Yeah, I tell you what, man. So I'll tell you where it came from.
Yeah.
Is back in my I was an investment banker.
Yeah.
At one point, and we would do performance reviews, and we would do 360 reviews, and the 360 reviews I thought were so effective. Right? You had the people that were reporting to you give you feedback, the people who you reported to give you feedback, your peers gave you feedback, and it gave this really what I thought is a true perspective of you. And so when we started matchmaking, I was like, man, we've got to borrow that. We've got to do that. That was awesome. And so I literally, when it was just me, and my wife, I was the guy who would literally call the former boyfriends and the girlfriends and the parents,
Wow.
and you would think that especially calling, like former boyfriends, you would think that they wouldn't have much to say or they wouldn't want to talk. But Kevin, man, they would have me on the phone for like 2 hours. They're like, here's what happened to me. I can't believe it. And we just learned so much. And ultimately what we started doing is we would then take all of this feedback and then just look for consensus points, look for the things that everyone said, right? The things that everyone agreed on, and then present that back to the client. And typically the client's surprised, they're surprised that this is a characteristic for good or for bad. The clients have been surprised that people thought they were so humorous or thought they were so charismatic, or surprised that, people thought that they were so rude or thought that they were so self-centered. And so it really provides great insight so that someone who is in earnest trying to be better can become better. It sounds
very scientific, like you're kind of sifting through data. It's very data responsive.
Yeah, you know what, man? Investment banking, man. It forced me, because when I was in investment banking, I was a research analyst at an investment bank.
Oh, okay. All right, it's coming clear.
Yeah, man. And that's all I dealt with was data all day long.
Mm-hmm. So are there any other transferred skills that you use in this business?
Everything. Everything. That Steve Jobs, I'm sure you've seen it, the Stanford commencement speech.
Oh yeah,
man, was so spot on. Where you just kind of grab from different places of life, and it's so wild how it all culminates and it all makes sense. I never would have thought I was going to be a matchmaker. Never. Like even 1 minute before I decided to be a matchmaker, I didn't think I was going to be a matchmaker, And it's wild because everything I've done in life, from the business side of being able to, manage cash flow to, the research side, to the fact that when I grew up, we moved everywhere. I've lived in Salt Lake City, Utah, and California, and New York, and what that taught me is I had to make friends quickly. I learned to read people quickly, and it taught me a lot about body language and personality, and just so many things. And so I've borrowed from every aspect of my life.
So, are you reading me right now? You got to read on me.
I am.
You can give me. We'll get a whole report later. So, I always ask people that. I've got someone coming up on the show who is she's literally a body language expert, and nothing makes you more nervous than talking to somebody who knows how to read people at that level.
Okay. What's her name?
I don't want to give it away because I don't want to reveal it yet. I will. I wish you hadn't asked me because now I feel like a jerk. No.
Okay, forget about that body language.
I don't want to reveal it yet. So let's just say, just hypothetically, something has happened. You can no longer do matchmaking as a business. Like, what would be the next thing you would transit? You can take all your skills and resources with you. What do you think you could transfer into?
Oh, that's wild, because now I'm going to give you I can't say it. That's exactly what I'm doing now. I mean, the project that I'm working on, for the last year, that's exactly what it is.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair's fair. Swap me down. I'm cool. All right. So, okay, then I have to know how you currently market this business.
The same way. So to me, it's all leverage, right?
Uh-huh.
The cool things that I have realized outside of matchmaking has been, an incredible network that I've been able to build all around the world. Because also as a part of matchmaking, I sit on the Matchmaking Institute, and we do training for matchmakers all around the world.
Okay.
And so I've been able to travel around the world, meet matchmakers around the world, and matchmakers have an incredible network because most of the people that go to matchmakers are very well accomplished people, very influential people. And so there's been an incredible network that I've been able to build. And so a lot of the promotion, if you will, and the marketing of this new product is going to be me leveraging from that network that I've already created.
So you ping them with, hey, I'm doing this, and you're cultivating leads from them, or
Yeah. So and I'll even give away what initially what we're doing is that we have identified, and we've actually already spoken with most who we just consider to be influencers in the particular market that we're going after, right? And these influencers, we're literally going to have them advocate for us, and that advocating is going to be, we believe, a key driver behind the growth of what we're doing. And that's something that I've just it's not rocket science. There are a ton of businesses that have done that from the inception of business all the way through to a lot of these apps now. But for the particular market that we're going after, it's somewhat unique. And so I think that I think that's going to be very effective for us. But then in addition, we plan to do a lot of traditional promotion, a lot of traditional marketing. With social now, unfortunately, there's not a lot of organic growth left in social, and so paid is imperative. If you're going to be in business, paid social is imperative. So we're going to do that. But then the last part of it is live. You and I didn't talk a lot about this, but when I launch, and this is because I forgot to tell you about this, Kevin. Is that,
I was feeling bad. I'm like, oh, I didn't ask.
No, it was because I completely forgot. Right? That was my smooth way of saying, we forgot, but let me go back. But when we launched the business, I would speak everywhere. Like I would go to the corner and speak. Like literally, I went to DuPont Circle with a bullhorn and started talking, like really, and in DC, and the police came and shut me down and everything. But, I would go to college campuses and started hosting these small events, the live experience was so powerful in us growing, the business, that once again, that one-on-one, winning people one-on-one. And so live is something that we're going to heavily take advantage of too, with the launch of this new product.
Okay. And that's, so is in-person events, or does that also include like webinars and things like that?
Webinars are included, but in person, where you could have the person's saliva, on you.
Saliva is known as rocket fuel in the marketing industry. So doesn't that, do you feel there's a limitation there at all when if you're doing this in person, then that's a large group of people who aren't really going to be able to attend. So is that a limitation, or does it even matter?
No, it's all about one.
Yeah.
It's the power of one. I think about Airbnb is a great example, and Brian Chesky over there, CEO, that's a business that's valued at billions of dollars today. And just a few years ago, they were literally one by one, going from home to home, securing the homes for Airbnb. They were the photographers, early on. And so, there are countless examples of that. And I think that we need to get out of this need for hyper growth overnight mindset and using that as the only, indicator of success. And we really need to focus about changing the lives of people one by one, and that is where, that's where amazing businesses, or that's how amazing businesses come about.
Yeah, I'm convinced you've sold me. I'm gonna cancel all my webinars now and insist everybody come meet me. Actually, I love doing that. I'll be honest with you. The clients that I meet in person are always the ones that I connect with best. But I'll be honest also, I kind of count like these podcast interviews as being sort of in person. Like, I would never have I probably would never have met Francesca Hoagie in person, because we don't run in the same circles. But now that we've been on the show together, we're buds. So yeah.
No, that's a fair point. The platform that we have now through digital is unprecedented. And my whole thought is I just don't want folks to rely 100% on it.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. So, speaking of technology, I mean, is there anything about, developments in tech that have either, hindered your business, or has it helped, or like dating sites, are those competitors to you in any way, like eHarmony or whatever?
I view it all as helped.
Yeah.
All as helped. A lot of people will say that online dating sites like eHarmony are competitors. A lot of the online dating sites, by the way, have launched their own matchmaking. eHarmony has, Match has, or acquired matchmaking firms. But to me, what's happening is it's just created more opportunity.
Yeah.
I believe that actually Tinder has been the most significant catalyst behind the change in the dating industry, and in particular the matchmaking industry, because you look at the millions upon millions of people who use Tinder, and the majority are first-time dating app or dating site users.
Yeah.
And so what happens is this is their entry point, right? And they say to themselves, "Oh, this is kind of cool. Let me try this." And then they get disgruntled, right?
Yeah.
And then they move on from there, and they typically move on to something escalated. Like, let me go to now a premium dating site, or then let me now go to a matchmaker, right? And so to me, it's been nothing but a blessing.
Yeah. That's good to hear. I like that philosophy. It's kind of similar to what the one that I hold, because I don't see anything as being in competition with me, honestly, because no one is me, right? So if I'm going out and promoting myself and my brand, you're not going to compete with the Kevin Tumlinson brand. Like, you can't. And you can't compete with the Paul C. Brunson or the Patrick C. Bunson brand.
But Kevin, though, let me ask you though, what about people competing against the time, right? So you think about the podcast, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast, someone has the option. They could spend their hour listening to Kevin,
Right.
or they could spend their hour, watching Real Housewives,
Yeah.
And so do you view that as competition or no?
I really don't, because you can offset either of those and come back anytime you like. And it's all up to you, the choice you make. If you're going to watch Real Housewives, then it's providing you value at that time, and you didn't perceive me as providing value. So I don't see that as competition. I see it possibly as a kind of failure on my part, but the kind of failure I can grow from. So no, I don't see that as competition at all.
There, look at that. No
And
competition.
you shouldn't either, listener. And also, don't go to Real Housewives. Come to me. So, all right, we're at our where I traditionally try to round these off, but I do have one more very, very important question. It's a serious one. Okay,
I'm ready.
I need to know what the obsession with Red Stripe is.
Oh man, J.A. Jamaica, stand up.
That's
Jamaica.
what it is. I should have known. Yeah, I kind of figured that out halfway through. I jotted that question. See, I don't write questions in advance at all. So that's the only question I wrote down from the very beginning, because I was kind of perusing your bio, and I'm like, yeah, this man really likes his Red Stripe.
I am addicted. I have a super quick Red Stripe story. Is I was in Jamaica the end of last year, and the group that had invited me knew how much of a Red Stripe addict I am. They had they had reps from Red Stripe meet me at the airport. They gave me the new Red Stripe. At that time, it was a new Red Stripe flavor that hadn't come out. They gave me Red Stripe hats. They gave me this whole Red Stripe thing. And I was like, I don't have any tattoos, but I'm getting ready to tattoo Red Stripe on my neck right now. I'm in love. But no, I love it. And I actually love the taste. A lot of people say that they don't love the taste. I love everything about it.
It's got its, when I'm feeling particularly islandy, we'll say. So,
that's when you bring out the Red Stripe.
That's when you bring out Red Stripe and a few other things. All right. Hey, Paul, man, I really appreciate you being on the show. For those of you listening, definitely go check out Paul's website at paulcbrunson.com, which will be in the show notes. And if you want to connect to him on social media, you're in luck. You only got to remember one name. Go to any particular social media site and type Paul C. Brunson in there, and you're going to have this guy. Man, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm kind of fascinated by your business. And here's something, and maybe this is a $1 million business idea. I don't know. I would love to see your process, that whole discovery process you use. I'd love to see that offered to just individuals at large, besides just in the matchmaking world. Because I know I could personally benefit from knowing what kind of impression I'm making on the people in my life. So there you go.
Agree. Completely. Kevin, there we go, Kevin. Jamaican. We got to do.
We got to do it. Well, man, you and I will crack open some Red Stripe and we'll talk that out. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Paul, for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Kevin, thank you. I really appreciate you and all the listeners. Thank you very much.
All right. And thanks, everybody. Stay tuned for my wrap up, and we'll see you next week. So that was Paul C. Brunson, not Patrick Bunsen, but Paul C. Brunson, who is, I think you'll agree, man. I'm as straight as they come, but he's got a very sexy voice. So, and apparently he appreciated my voice too, which is cool, man. I dig that. That was a great interview. Here's what's interesting. I'll say that a third time and get it right. But here's what's interesting about the nature of what I do here. The people I talk to, there's this great wide range of people doing all kinds of things that are just really interesting to me, and some of it's unexpected. I would never have thought that I'd have any interest in the matchmaker industry. I don't have an interest in it for myself. Like I wouldn't want to do that work, and not because there's anything wrong with it. I just find it fascinating. Okay, the idea of building a business around connecting human beings in such an intimate way, and the sort of clientele that goes to Paul. I mean, they're serious, man. My wife and I met on eHarmony, and that was a big commitment for me at the time. I just recall. I mean, money was kind of tight for me. I had actually dumped a lot of money into various dating services. One called Equally Yoked, which was another like Christian dating service. That one cost me a lot. I mean, at a time where, my annual income was probably around the range of, maybe $12,000 or so a year. I spent $2,400 getting into that program, where I went on a handful of dates and never really connected with anybody. And I remember being lectured by the woman who interviewed me to get me into the program. And it was just, she was telling me how, these girls, they're looking to connect. They're looking to build a real, long-lasting relationship. So don't take advantage of that. I'm like, dude, I'm dropping quite a bit of money here. If all I wanted was to hook up, I mean, I could do that for free. So that was a eye opener. The way that guys get treated in the industry is interesting. But what Paul does that's different than eHarmony or Equally Yoked or any service that I've ever encountered is that sort of digging in and systematizing the whole thing, going back and doing background research. I mean, I'll be honest, this would make a cool TV series. You could throw some drama in there. People kind of having to get their life together in order to find love and make that kind of match. So you could see where he's sort of like Hitch on steroids. But so anyway, I'm incredibly grateful for Paul being on the show and taking the time to talk to me. If you'd like to connect with Paul, you can go to paulcbrunson.com. That's his website, where you can find out more about him and get it. You can, if you want to get involved in his services, go for it, man. I think he can be a great help. You can also follow him on Twitter at Paul C. Brunson. In fact, Paul C. Brunson, you remember that name, and go to any social media outlet and you're in. Just go connect. Go type in Paul C. Brunson, all one word, all lowercase. You will find him. You can connect to him. He's on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere in the digital universe. Lots of me that way, man. You look my name up on any service, and it's pretty much going to be, I'm ubiquitous too. So, that said, I want to get to now. I want to talk to you about the question I got from a listener, which I think is so cool. This is coming from his name is Ted Coker. He did not say where he's from. And if you're going to write in, I really appreciate it. I love it. Please tell me where you're from so I can kind of identify, your region. I don't know Ted Coker, so I don't know. And he hasn't commented on anything on my site before. So I don't have a clue where he's from. Sorry, Ted. But he asked a really great question. Before I answer it, though, if you want to ask me a question, go to wordslingerpodcast.com, and there's a lot of ways to do this. You can use the contact button there and send me an email, and that's the way people seem to prefer right now for some reason. If you'd like to hear your voice on the air, man, I'd be happy to play it. You can, right on the site, there's a button to leave a voicemail via SpeakPipe, which is very easy if you've got a computer microphone, and most do. You just click on that. I think there's a sort of accept this plugin kind of thing that comes up. And it starts recording immediately. And you can play it back and hear how you sounded and whatever. But just, leave me a question, and I'd be happy to play it on air and consider it asked and answered. I'll do that. You can also call me at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. And leave me a voicemail. Now, that said, let's get to Paul's question. He asks, I have an idea for a book, and I really want to write it, but between my full-time job and my wife and kids, I don't really know how I'll find the time. What advice do you have for someone who wants to write but doesn't have time? And that's a question I get a lot. It's a question I asked a lot. When I first started writing, oh, man. I've said before, the first book I actually published took 2 years to write. And then the second book took about 2 years to write. And, by the third book, I'm like, at this rate, I'm going to put out 4 books in a lifetime. This is ridiculous. I can't sustain a writing career on writing 2 to 3 hours a week. That's just never going to work. So I had to develop a system for getting up each day, putting my butt in the chair, opening the floodgates and letting the creativity spill into the page. And the method that I developed involves Scrivener, which you've heard me talk about before. And if you go to kevintumlinson.com/resources, or if you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, I'm sorry. If you go to wordslingerpodcast.com and click on the resources button in the menu, you'll find a whole page of cool stuff. And on that page is Scrivener. And right under that is a course you can take called Learn Scrivener Fast. And that was from a former guest, Joseph Michael Nicoletti. He created that course. It's a fantastic course for learning Scrivener. Scrivener has a steep learning curve, but it is so worth it for organizing and keeping you on track. And it has project tracking and that sort of thing. So go check that out. Now, that was part of the process, and that really changed things for me. Plus, doing things like, tuning in and becoming a part of various communities like the self-publishing podcast community and, meeting a bunch of authors and connecting with them, that helped. But that's not the question that Ted's asked here. The question is, how do I find time when I don't have time? And the truth is, man, this is going to be hard on you, and I'm sorry, but you have the time. The thing is, we make time for the things that are important to us. We just do. If you had the exact life you have now, and a doctor told you that you have to walk 3 miles a day or you're going to die in a month, you would walk 3 miles a day. You'd probably walk 20 miles a day. You'd find a way to make that happen. And that's just, that's human nature. We want things have to become dire before we'll actually do them. And that's unfortunate. But the truth is, if you really find something to be important and worthwhile, you will do it. You'll find time to do it. Now, that said, what I would do to help is, first of all, writing a book is sort of a numbers game. If you look around and you say, okay, the idea I have All right, I'm going to give you a whole process here, and this should help. So, for those of you who are listening in and have the ability to take notes, do that. And for those of you who are not, you can maybe bookmark this. Let me see what the time code is. The time code. Oh man, we're at 1 hour and 9 minutes and 43 seconds. I'm sorry, but we'll get this done fast. But if you will decide, I want to write a book that's like this book. Go find a book that you enjoy. You can do an average word count for that book. So take an average page, find an average sentence, count the number of words in that sentence, and then count the number of lines on that page. Multiply that together, and you'll get an approximate number of words for that book. That'll be your new word target. And let's say that was 100,000 words. And then set yourself a deadline. And I try to get people to kind of, get into the world of writing a book in 30 days. But let's just start with 90 days. You want to write a book in 3 months. And you want to write 100,000 words. And you can divide 100,000 by 90, and that'll give you your new daily target. And that daily target is going to be key. Okay, you're going to take that daily target and commit to sitting down every day until you hit that target. And in the case of a 90-day schedule for 100,000 words, that's only like 1,100 words a day. That's like 3 pages. You can write 3 pages. Probably, if you have any inclination toward writing, you can probably write 3 pages within an hour or so. So commit to the word count rather than the time, and that will help. That's a piece of advice I give clients. Of course, you need the time, but if you don't make your word count at let's say you get up an hour early or something, instead of waking up at 7, you get up at 6 or maybe 5, and you decide this is my writing time, and I'm going to sit and write. I'm going to give it, everything I got until it's time to leave for work. Sit down and commit to writing that 1,100 words every single day, every day, and turn off your internal editor. While you're writing, your job is to write. Your job is not to edit. Stop trying to make it perfect. That's what's stopping you, okay? And that's what takes the most time. Just sit down with your idea and start writing. And if you don't hit your 1,100 words before you have to leave for work, then commit to the idea that at some point during that day you're going to come back and finish. So maybe at lunch you hit it, maybe afterwards, after you've put the kids to bed and you've got your wife is turning in, and you go and you have a sip of coffee or something and wake yourself up, or do some jumping jacks, and you sit down and you write the rest of your 1,100 words. As long as you hit that goal every day, you will have a book in 90 days, and that's a guarantee. That's a promise. You will do it. You have to commit. You have to do the work, but the work is so piecemeal. It's just one bite, and you can do that. So that's my big advice. If you can't find the time, find the time. I mean, it's just you commit to the word count over the time. That helps. It really does. So that's my advice to you, Ted. If you got more questions, if that didn't quite hit the mark, man, feel free to hit me up. If you go onto wordslingerpodcast.com, you're going to see in the menu bar, there's a coaching and consulting button. And so if you'd like to kind of step this up, you can always get some coaching with me. And I do a free 15-minute discovery session to find out whether I'm going to be able to help you or not. You get a lot of cool advice in that, I promise. A lot of it's what I just told you, but it's there. We'll talk through your concerns, your worries, your headaches, and then you can schedule an hour and talk to me. It's only like a couple $100, so we can talk. Now, what's funny about that is if you've got the time to do the coaching, you've got the time to do the writing. But if you need somebody to help, man, I'm here. I will do that. Now, if you are a listener to the show and you love it and you like it, and you want some more of it, so, which is not quite, I didn't get the order right on that, but I would love it if you helped out too. Here's your chance. You can go to Patreon, which is, actually, I'm not going to send you directly to Patreon. What I'm going to do is send you to wordslingerpodcast.com, where you can actually click on the little button. There's a button right there that takes you straight to the Patreon campaign. There's a video of me that I actually need to redo. The sound was out of sync. There's all kinds of problems with it. But if you go to that button And I'm actually pulling it up so that I have something to reference here. Podcasts. So many things. There's so many things. But if you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, click on the button for the Patreon campaign. It'll take you to that page, and you can actually help support the show with as little as $1 a month. I mean, just getting $1 a month actually helps out a great deal. You have no idea. And what happens is, this isn't so much a revenue thing for me. What it is I've got other work that has to happen during the week. I have to take on clients. I have to take on projects in order to make a living. And if I can make enough from the podcast itself, then it allows me to sort of segment off more time for it. And that allows me to create a better show, and allows me to, kind of expand that universe. So you can be a part of that. You can help that out a lot. So if you get any value out of this and you feel like other people can get value out of it, and I really hope you feel that way. I really do. Because I do this, it really is a labor of love. Like I said before the interview, this isn't the why of my life, but it's a big part of my life. And it's something I value, and something I'll do, I'll keep doing forever. So thanks for your support. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up. So I don't want to labor that point, but go and check out the Patreon campaign. Check out wordslingerpodcast.com, where you can find back episodes of the show. If you have a question for the show, call me, 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. Or from wordslingerpodcast.com, you can click on the Send Voicemail tab that's on the right-hand side of your screen, and leave me a voicemail directly from your computer, or click the contact button and send me a message. Actually, there may even be a form right on the page, and if there's not, I need to get to that. I'm going to put that there. That's it. That's all the ways to get in touch with me. Ask me anything you want. I hope you loved this interview with Paul C. Brunson, or Patrick Bunson. And and tune in next week. We're going to have more great interviews, more questions, more, just about everything. Take care, guys.
Word Slinger.